And Rachel Siegel covers the economy and the Federal Reserve for the Washington Post, and she is joining us now to discuss today's report. Rachel, good to see you. So, gas prices, energy prices are down. The supply chain situation is improving slightly. I have to ask, does it seem a little too optimistic, too soon maybe to say that things are starting to get better?
It's certainly the hope, even if there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical that the good news that we saw in the July inflation report will be reflected in the months to come. We knew that gas and energy prices were going to fall from the peaks that families all over the country felt in June, and that did a tremendous help in bringing down the overall inflation number in July. Now we just need to see that continued. Policymakers need to see months more of these kinds of inflation reports to know if we're seeing the kind of progress the economy needs.
I guess tamping that is housing costs, rent, that is still sky high, and food prices, all the basics here. What do economists tell you about what it's going to take to sort of stabilize that area of the economy?
Well, those are categories that are affected by so many different types of forces that are in a lot of ways removed from gas and energy. Housing has become one of the most unequal parts of the COVID economy, and there isn't really any telling when rent will turn around. Rent isn't dependent on supply chains healing or waves of the pandemic ebbing. Food is also something that depends so much on supply chains or even the transportation costs tied to gas and energy. So in a lot of ways, in order for overall inflation to come down, the kinds of forces that affect so many different parts of the economy really have to heal on their own too.
Meantime, I want to talk about consumer sentiment here. How bad, I guess, do Americans feel about the economy right now? Because in reality, that is a big driver, isn't it?
It's a huge driver, and it's also one of the things that can affect whether inflation becomes a sort of self-perpetuating cycle. People have felt really badly about the economy, and that can change their behavior in ways that make inflation even harder to control. The drop in gas prices that you mentioned has been a tremendous help. Families aren't feeling the sting of $5 gas at the pump every day anymore, but that doesn't mean that they aren't feeling the high cost of living everywhere else. At the same time, there are other signs that the economy is doing really well. We saw a huge jobs report figure last week that suggested in some ways people might be feeling better about their jobs or their rising wages, but inflation really is one of the main ways in which people don't think the economy is working for them.
Well, let's talk about that. Unemployment is so low here, and that keeps many experts from really saying that we are in a true recession. And then when the Inflation Reduction Act goes to the House here, what do you think would be the likely impact of that passage?
Well, we're waiting to see when the House will be able to move forward on the Inflation Reduction Act, although it's been a huge windfall or a huge sort of boost for the Biden administration and Democrats in Congress who had really had a lot of their spending agenda held up over rising inflation. There isn't necessarily a sense that that would immediately bring inflation down, but the argument is that the kind of investments made would be able to help lower costs in the meantime. But again, the main message put forward by Democrats in Congress is that the economy is strong, that the job market is growing. But what remains to be seen is whether or not policymakers can slow the economy down, bring down inflation, cool off demand, and be able to preserve those signs of strength.
Rachel Siegel covers the Fed and the economy for the Washington Post. You can find more from her on their website. Rachel, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks very much.
Take care.